Imagine this for a moment. You're driving home after a long day at work. Everything feels normal until suddenly your car makes a strange noise, and before you know it, the engine dies. You manage to get the car to a repair shop, and the mechanic tells you the repair will cost $1,200. Now, let me ask you, do you have that money set aside, ready to cover the cost, without using a credit card or borrowing from friends or family? If your answer is no, you're not alone. A survey by the Federal Reserve shows that nearly 63% of Americans cannot cover even a $500 emergency expense without borrowing. That's a shocking number. It means most people are just one small emergency away from falling into debt. And here's the thing. Emergencies don't send you an email before they show up. They don't give you a week's notice. They arrive suddenly, they're stressful, and they can throw your entire financial life upside down if you're not prepared. This is exactly why you need an emergency fund. In this video, I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know about emergency funds. We'll talk about what they are, why they're so important, how much you should save, the best places to keep the money, and a step-by-step plan to actually build your own emergency fund. But this isn't going to be one of those boring finance lectures. I'm going to keep it real. I'll give you examples, I'll share stories, and I'll show you why this one habit, building an emergency fund, could literally save you from financial disaster. So stick with me till the end, because if you take action after watching this, you'll be way ahead of most Americans when it comes to financial security. Part 1. What is an emergency fund? Let's start with the basics. What exactly is an emergency fund? An emergency fund is simply money that you set aside for unexpected, urgent expenses. The key word here is unexpected. We're not talking about rent, groceries, or your Netflix subscription. Those are regular expenses. You know they're coming. An emergency fund is for things you don't see coming. Think of it as your financial airbag. Just like a car has airbags to protect you in an accident, an emergency fund protects your finances when life throws you a curveball. Let me give you some examples. Medical bills. You're healthy today, but tomorrow you might slip, break a bone, and end up with a $2,000 hospital bill. Insurance doesn't always cover everything. Car repairs. Cars don't ask for permission before breaking down. One major repair can cost anywhere between $500 and $1,500. Job loss. Imagine losing your job. Without an emergency fund, how will you pay rent, buy food, or cover utilities while you're looking for new work? Home repairs. Your water heater explodes, your roof leaks, or your fridge suddenly dies. These are not optional expenses. You can't live without fixing them. Family emergencies. Maybe you need to fly across the country on short notice to help a loved one. Flights, hotels, and related costs add up quickly. Now here's what an emergency fund is not. It's not your vacation money. It's not your let's buy the new iPhone money. It's not an investment that you're trying to grow. It's purely a safety net. It sits quietly in the background until you need it. And when you do, you'll be grateful it's there. A lot of people confuse an emergency fund with savings, but there's a difference. Savings are for goals, buying a home, going on a trip, or maybe starting a business. An emergency fund isn't about achieving goals. It's about survival and stability. Part 2. Why do you need an emergency fund? You might be thinking, okay, I get it, but do I really need one? Can I just rely on credit cards? The answer is simple. You absolutely need one. Let me explain why. Reason 1. Financial security. Life is unpredictable. One unexpected expense can completely derail your budget. Without a safety net, you'll end up scrambling, stressed, and possibly making poor financial decisions. Reason 2. Avoiding debt. Credit cards might feel like an emergency solution, but in reality, they create a bigger problem. With interest rates often over 20%, a $1,000 expense can quickly turn into $1,500 or even $2,000 if you only make minimum payments. That's how people get stuck in the debt cycle. Reason 3. Peace of mind. There's something powerful about knowing you're covered. When you have an emergency fund, you sleep better. You're not lying awake at night worrying about what will happen if your car breaks down tomorrow. That peace of mind is worth more than gold. Reason 4. Independence. Without an emergency fund, you might have to borrow money from friends or family. And let's be honest, that's awkward, stressful, and can even damage relationships. Having your own fund means you're independent. You don't have to rely on anyone else. Let me put it this way. An emergency fund doesn't stop bad things from happening. It makes those bad things manageable. It turns a crisis into an inconvenience. Part 3. How much should you save? This is probably the question you're asking right now. Okay, I'm convinced, but how much should I save? The golden rule is simple. 3 to 6 months of living expenses. That means if your monthly expenses are $2,500, you should aim for somewhere between $7,500 and $15,000. If you're supporting a family of 4 with monthly expenses around $5,000, then your emergency fund should be between $15,000 and $30,000. Now I know what you're thinking. Those numbers sound impossible, right? Don't worry. The point is not to hit that number overnight. The point is to start small and build. If you currently have nothing saved, your first goal is just $500 to $1,000. That's enough to cover most small emergencies, like a flat tire, a doctor's visit, or a sudden utility bill. Once you reach that milestone, then you can work on building the bigger cushion. Think of it like climbing a ladder. You don't jump to the top, you go one step at a time. Part 4. Where should you keep it? Now let's talk about where to actually keep your emergency fund. The best option is a high-yield savings account. Why? Because it's safe, it's separate from your regular checking account, and it earns some interest. Even if the interest isn't huge, the safety and accessibility matter more. Another good option is a money market account. Similar benefits with potentially slightly higher returns. Where should you not keep it? Not in the stock market, too risky. Your emergency fund should never lose value. Not in crypto, way too volatile. Not under your mattress, unsafe, and inflation will eat away at its value. Remember, the emergency fund's job is not to grow your wealth. Its job is to be there when you need it. Part 5. How to build it step by step. Building an emergency fund can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Here's a step-by-step plan. Set a starter goal. Don't think about $10,000 right away. Start with $1,000. That's achievable. Make a budget. Track your income and expenses. Find areas where you can cut back, even a little. Maybe it's skipping takeout once a week or canceling a subscription you don't use. Automate savings. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your savings account every payday. Treat it like a bill. Pay yourself first. Use extra money wisely. Tax refund, work bonus, side hustle income, put at least part of it into your emergency fund. Stay consistent. Even if you're only saving $50 a month, that's $600 a year. It adds up. The secret is consistency, not perfection. Now let's go over the mistakes people often make with emergency funds. Using it for non-emergencies. Buying a new TV is not an emergency. Keeping it in risky investments. Stocks and crypto can lose value overnight. Not saving enough. Thinking $100 is enough to be covered. Avoid these mistakes, and your emergency fund will do its job. Part 7. Real-life stories and USA context. Let's get real. In 2020, during the pandemic, millions of Americans lost their jobs. Those with emergency funds were able to cover rent, buy groceries, and stay afloat. Those without? Many turn to credit cards, payday loans, or even bankruptcy. Another example, a sudden medical bill of $2,000. Without an emergency fund, that bill could mean debt collectors, late payments, and stress. With the fund, it's just a setback. That's the difference an emergency fund makes. So, let's wrap this up. An emergency fund is not just money, it's peace of mind, independence, and protection. Here's the formula. Save 3 to 6 months of expenses, keep it safe and separate, build it step by step. If you don't have one yet, start today. Even $100 in a separate savings account is a start. Remember, financial freedom doesn't come from luck, it comes from preparation. And your emergency fund is the first step toward true financial freedom.